Matchup between the Oakland Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Super Bowl 37.
They couldn't catch another shit. Cannons like the loaded, so it's time to flip the script. Cruising through the bay on that Buccaneer battleship, sold up, screaming out, so buck what you heard. So buck what you heard. So buck what you heard. So buck what you heard.
All right, welcome back to Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I will follow you back. I promise. We are deeper than we were last week. Deep into the playoffs, not playoffs, but the off season. What am I thinking? I got playoffs on the break. Playoffs? I'm not talking about playoffs. We're talking about the off season. Okay, it's all about the off season right now, and right now it's the unknown. We don't know what the Bucs are doing right now, and I brought some guys on here to kind of help us talk through some of the things that could potentially happen. I'm joined by my co-host, KB. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How y'all doing?
Doing great. And we
Great
have a special guest on with us, Michael Pless from Real Bucs Talk. This is a guy that, I've known him for a long time, and we've been through several drafts together, and he's been a co-host here, and we have stayed in touch, and we're going to continue to stay in touch because this guy knows what he's doing. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great, Gene. It's an honor and pleasure to be back on and talk with you guys and talk some Bucs football, man. I'm ready for this offseason to get rolling. Yeah,
me too, man. I'm sick of all the lies and fabrications and stories and everything else is going on right now, man. Twitter, I've just kind of had to turn my back on Twitter a little bit and just, okay, let's wait and see what happens here. So we're into the off season, and I kind of want to start here with me. I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just with what they have right now, I think their major needs are edge rusher, inside interior defensive lineman. I would even consider wide receiver, quarterback, running back, and then offensive tackle. That's kind of where I'm looking at Tampa can really solidify what they have already. And, KB, I'm going to start with you, and then I'll go over to Pless.
Yeah, man. For me, it starts up front on the defensive line. I mean, I'm operating under the assumption that they somehow bring the main players back because I think at this point we don't know. So I'm operating as if Shaq's back, Levante's back, Godwin's back, Sue's back. So take what I say with a grain of salt. This can all go to flames if that doesn't happen. But I think as we saw in the playoffs, Vita Vea is an irreplaceable player. But if he's ever out or Sue's out, you need to have people coming off the edges or, providing that constant pressure inside to allow JPP and Shaq to work. And JPP is a fantastic player who can overcome every obstacle that ever comes his way. But he is still, he's getting 32, 33. He's got 1 year left.
Yeah.
Shaq, assuming if you bring him back, he signs for 3-4 years minimum. So I think you need to find someone who you can groom. I think Anthony Nelson has flashed, but I don't think he's there yet. And I think an underrated need that no one's really talking about is the cornerback and the safety room. We have solid starters, but assuming if the Bucs bring everyone back, the draft class that includes Carlton Davis, Jordan Whitehead, Alex Kappa. If we're pushing off Cap, they're the guys who are going to be affected. So if Jordan Whitehead were to leave, we have Mike Edwards to step in, but then Mike Edwards' contract starting to come up soon. And, I think there needs to be some, depth in the room, just, guys get injured. We put a lot of stuff on the secondary in general, both in man and with the safeties and zones. And then to me, throw bodies at the offensive line, hope it hits. We saw with Aaron Stinney, you found a golden ticket there. He's going to be a restricted free agent. So, are the dollars and cents going to work out for him? If not, Brady, we just got to keep protected. Even if it's some small school guys that may take a year or two to develop, just get bodies in there that you think you can develop and can become starters in a role if needed.
I like it. Bless.
Yeah, those are great takes. I think, offensive line, defensive line is where you have to start. This team needs youth up front, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think D tackle is actually I believe a higher priority than edge, because everything in this defense runs up the middle. Yes. So, if you have big boys that can take on blockers up front, you allow more opportunities for your edge guys to have, more pressures, more opportunities for sacks, etc. That's why I feel like Levante David's not going anywhere. He's going to be signed back. Same thing with Godwin. Shaq Barrett, I think, has an opportunity to come back. Again, it's just going to depend on price point. But with that being said, yeah, they need to address, defensive line, definitely get some more youth up there, more talent to go alongside Vita Vea will be, a much needed, I think, factor in addition that needs to happen. So also, looking, across the board, I think, you can always add receivers. I think that is something that, Jason Light has done every year. It seems like running back, I think, is an underrated need, just because I feel like we need more talent in that room. I like Rojo, but again, I'm not in love with him. I don't think he's a guy that, can be that every down back. It just hasn't been shown. So I would like to see an upgrade there as far as talent, add to Keyshawn Vaughn and Rojo. And then I agree also the secondary room, it's going to be a subject of topic, especially starting next year, like you said, with contracts coming up. I like the safeties and I like the corners that we have. I hope we can keep them all. But again, that's usually not always the case. So always want to draft corners and safeties if you can, whether it be early or late. So yeah, I would say definitely more needs on the defensive side of the ball, especially up front. I think that's where you need to add, and just continue to add youth on the defense. I think offensively, you're pretty much set, given your contract status of pretty much all the positions.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, right now, that's the one thing that sticks in my mind is the defense. When we go back, if we could just take a second and look at the offseason going into the 2020 season, who predicted that Tampa would flash like they did? And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this. I really believe that Tampa won that offseason free agency battle last year, bringing back all of their defensive players minus Carl Nassib. And we saw that. We saw just indications of that throughout the season. And then when you got into the playoffs, you really saw what this defense could be. And you were, at that point, I mean, I think it was right after the Saints game, I was just kind of sitting back and I was rewatching the game and I was like, could you imagine if they hadn't re-signed some of these guys, what this team would have looked like? And then I kind of flashed back to a couple of years ago and what this defense looked like. So I don't want Bucs fans to get spoiled by this, but I think that 2020 offseason going into the 2020 season was incredible with everybody they brought back and everybody they were able to get in there to use. So I'm hoping, beyond hope, that they can, replicate this or even better what you saw last year.
Why people aren't bringing up Jason Light for Executive of the Year and why he did not win that award, I will never understand.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
You bring in a quarterback that has Tom Brady's resume when, I mean, realistically, we know one other team was interested in the Chargers, but I'm sure other teams inquired. The Vegas Raiders were connected. Other teams were connected, but for what it came down to, it sounded like it was the Bucs and the Chargers, yet so he got wrote off. Gronk came out of retirement. Everyone, myself included, I will forever be wrong about Gronk. I didn't think. I mean, I figured fourth round pick, like whatever, but it was the $10 million that kind of threw me off. But I think he earned every penny. If we had more salary cap, I'd say give him $10 million again, because I think he earned it both as an offensive lineman and a receiver, to be honest, because he really was a sixth offensive lineman. Yeah, and then AB, I didn't want him here. I thought he'd be cancer to the locker room. I thought he wouldn't work out. I thought, not that I think he would have, shown off on the field, gotten Chris Godwin or Evans like upset in any way, but I just felt like if the Bucs were losing, that's a guy you just don't want to have around. But everything worked that the Bucs did, and they hit, from everyone's account, other than Keyshawn Vaughn, they hit a home run in the draft.
Yeah.
Let's just be real there. So Jason Light,
and I have not given up on Keyshawn Vaughn at all.
Me either.
Yeah, and I think that I think the lights were too bright for him, and I think that he's going to have a great bounce back year. I think he's going to be a great compliment for Ronald Jones. I think they're going to be. I mean, he's going to be competing for that third position, but I think they're going to bring in another running back. Some way, shape, or form, they're going to bring in another running back that's a little bit more complete, because you just didn't get that. And I'm a Rojo lover, but I'm just saying, for what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers use their running backs for, I really don't believe that he's that complete. And I think you have to bring somebody else in, either to push him or to come in to help this team in that push towards another Super Bowl run.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think Jason Light did a hell of a job, especially last offseason. You bring back your core pieces on defense. Getting back Sue and Shaq Barrett was huge, and I think they're definitely going to try to do that again. And I think they have the capability to do so. And if you can do that, you can bring back the 5-6 main guys that we spoke of. I think you're off to a great start in the offseason, and then it's just about making sure, again, you just get the right people in the draft and continue to add depth and talent. And then, once that second wave of free agency that's going to occur, then you can really find some just, quality players that are going to take less to come here, I believe. And, 1 year deals, on the low end salaries, because they're waiting for that cap hit to go up next year. And then they can make, more money.
That's where that TV revenue comes in.
Well, did you guys see the Diana Rossini tweet that she put out today that even Jake Arians commented on, that basically we're going to see a fire sale where a lot of teams are just going to let go of a lot of players. It's not going to be like Black Monday, but it's going to be pretty ominous for a lot of veterans in the NFL. And a lot of those, players are going to want to go to the Chiefs, the Bucs, the Packers, teams that they think that are going to be, contending. And then what they can do is what Pless is saying, cash out in 2022, kind of what we're saying with Godwin. That's when the cap's going to skyrocket. So might as well win, make a name, get some publicity, and make money.
Just like Playoff Lenny did. I do not believe that Playoff Lenny comes back to Tampa.
Build a statue of him, though. I'll do it. I'm cool with that. Just I'm not paying him $7, $8, $10 million.
No, but what he was able to accomplish, I really believe that he's going to go somewhere and somebody's going to give him a nice payday. I can see that happening.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I just don't. I like him as a player, but again, I don't think he's going to be a fit going forward. I think they really want to, and I'll say it again, they want to find someone in the draft that I think can be more of a complete player. Again, Rojo's up for a contract next year. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you want to find someone.
It's be cheaper for him too, if you're doing it through the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. And either draft or maybe free agency. I know a lot of people have talked about James White. That could be, I'm not
what are your thoughts on James White?
I'm not too big on him. I rather, go after someone in the draft, knowing that I have, 4 years or 5 years with that guy and see what he can become. And maybe potentially you have a guy for maybe longer than that, or you just continue to draft running backs, which is my motto. I think that's what I would do if I was a GM, because again, they just don't last. They don't last you past, that second contract or get to that second contract.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would be disappointed with Tampa if they drafted a running back with that number 32 pick. I think you're depending on what they do with free agency, the Bucs could be in a position where they can grab the best player on the board at number 32. And I just would hope that, because you can get running backs. You can get running backs, whether it's through free, and they may get somebody in free agency. You just don't know.
Playoff Lenny.
Yep.
He was available.
Exactly. That's a great point right there. But I really believe that, the Buccaneers can, they could do something in the draft. They could get players out there. But I just hope that it's not with that number 32 pick. I mean,
what do you think if the Bucs traded back to, let's say, 36,
that's
38? See, that's what if you're going to take a running back, I think you just get out of the fifth year option, because the fifth year option used to be a fantastic thing for teams. But now if they make Pro Bowls, if they make all pros, the escalators specifically for a running back, just the value is just not there to me. If, like, let's say you took, even if you missed on, let's say, a Jalen Phillips, insert whatever pass rusher at 32, or a D tackle, the dude out of Alabama, blanking my name.
Christian Barmore.
If Barmore is there, like, if they are able to make Pro Bowls or make names of themselves and have an escalator, then I think it becomes worth it to pay that 1 year to see what you got. And then before you extend them, as opposed to, a running back where it's okay, he's making 4 or 5 mil the first couple years, whatever. Then fifth year it jumps to like 14, and you're like, you might as well just draft him in the second and just get 4 years.
Yeah, most definitely.
And franchise tag 1 year if that's what you want to do.
And I'm going to go on record right now saying, don't jump out the window. If playoff Lenny or Super Bowl Lenny, whatever you want to call him, if he goes off to another team, don't jump out the window, because there are running backs that will be available out there. That's just, where it is. T. Smitty's talking about Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne ain't going to make it in the second round. He won't be available by the time.
I don't think he'll be at 32 either.
He won't.
I think Miami or.
I think Miami's a great fit for him. To kind of help Tua out.
Or Deshaun, if we want to there.
Yeah. And so there's so many different storylines right now in this offseason. I think this offseason is a little bit more unique, because I think Tampa paved the way with a quarterback coming to another team, setting that team up and getting that team into a Super Bowl situation, and they win the Super Bowl. So now you got other players that are seeing this, and they're like, man, look what Tom Brady did at 59 years old, man. He's coming here and he's revitalized in Tampa, a team that's, exercised futility for I don't know how long. And so my thing is, I want to see what they do, what happens in free agency, because that's going to be a big part of all this. Just where players go. And that's why I wanted to talk with you guys tonight, because we're not NFL insiders, as I mentioned before, but I like talking about free agency and what could potentially happen. And so I do want to start with you, Pless, and I want to see, based on what we've seen, what do you think Tampa is working on behind the scenes? If you were a GM, what would Tampa be working on right now, as far as setting this team up to make that next Super Bowl run?
Well, I think it starts with just, like we said earlier, bringing back our own guys. I think that's, priority number one. So if they can bring back, who they need to, then you set yourself up really well, going forward. And Bruce Arians talked about it, like, just bringing in, their core people back, really don't have to add any outsiders. And I agree with that. I think you have enough talent here if you bring those said players back to be very successful. So really after that, it just comes down to preparing for the draft and preparing for different scenarios. And, I see some people in the chat saying trade down, and I agree with that. I think that would be my first option if we can. That's
the best value right there.
Well, and really, I think there's the quarterbacks available that could be taken at 32 where a team might say it's worth it. Like, let's say everyone's on the Mac Jones train. He might not last till 32, but there's still Trey Lance. There's still Kyle Trask. These are guys that are borderline. If a team wants that fifth, we were just talking about the fifth year option, like on a quarterback, it's worth it. So we saw with Lamar Jackson, like, 32 is the spot for if you want to trade up for a quarterback from round 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I like I was saying, I think the real priority is just bringing back who we need to, and then maybe we add some people from the outside. But again, I think it comes after the draft where you have those players sitting there and seeing what is available. Seeing what kind of contracts we can give them. After our said cap space, because you have to reserve some cap for the rookies to sign them. So got to make sure, you have enough room there to maybe add, maybe 3 to 5 players that you like as far as value. So really that's what I think. So it's going to be a quiet free agency, but again, it'll be loud at the same time because we're bringing back, really good football players. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah. And that is the key. And again, it kind of reflects back to the 2020 offseason where the Buccaneers brought back all their defense. They took care of their defense. Mm-hmm. And those were the guys in the playoffs that really helped this team to continue to advance in the playoffs was this defense. And, the defense still to this day remains underrated just because of all the things that, that went on. And they don't get the credit they deserve with, like, for instance, the Green Bay game or New Orleans or, Kansas City. They don't get the credit they deserve for a lot of those games and what they were able to accomplish. And, I see some people are talking about Leonard Fournette in the chat. Let me say this about Leonard Fournette. I'm not taking anything away from Leonard Fournette, but Leonard Fournette, I mean, there are players out there that, you can get the same value because Leonard Fournette is wanting that big payday. I can tell you this right now. He's won the Super Bowl. He went to the playoffs with Jacksonville. He's shown that he can be somewhat of an asset. I still question his health because he did run into a spell where he was not 100% healthy with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I will continue to say this: the best ability is availability. So when I look at players like O.J. Howard, who was, he's a talent. He's a definite talent, but, you can't keep him on the field for any expanded period of time. Leonard Fournette, we've seen what Leonard Fournette can do when he's healthy, but there were times where he wasn't healthy, where he could have definitely benefited this team at some point. And it kind of set him back because he came onto the team later on in the season compared to everybody else. So he didn't get up to speed as fast as he really could have. And I believe that, because of his injuries, that could be a potential problem. That's like Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook. I love his game. I love watching him play. But again, the best ability is availability. And, what you saw from him, against the Vikings, the Vikings against the Bucs, that just kind of gave you a glimpse. But again, you always have it in the back of your head. Is he going to be available when we really, really need him? So, that's kind of my take on it. And, that's kind of how I look at it. I think that the Bucs can go out there. There are running backs that are going to be available out there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, and with Leonard, people forget, like, he was a healthy scratch versus the Vikings late in the season in a very important game. And this is, insiders have talked about it. Like, there's apparently was a conversation between Lenny and Bruce was like, hey, man, I don't like your attitude. We need you to do X, Y, and Z for us. You're not doing it, like, blah, 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 blah. And Lenny was like, okay, you know what, I can do it. And we've seen Lenny on, social media kind of be like over, like, enthusiastic when it comes to being like a good teammate. And a lot of that might come from some insecurity. Like, we don't know what Lenny's going through. Like, yeah. He was on top of the world for a couple years there. Then all of a sudden he's released outright as a number 5 pick for a Jaguar team that really, I mean, they had a great undrafted free agent running back, but like, he wasn't even supposed to be on the roster. Right. COVID helped James Robinson, blow up for all you fantasy fans. Like, Lenny was not looking very bright at the beginning of last season. So, there, like Gene said, there's going to be a lot of options there. We don't know who is going to be available, but we know running back's the most expendable asset that teams can run into. So if they come up against the cap, or maybe they're like, this might not be the year, we want to go somewhere young. We're going to trade down the draft. We're just going to get assets, get some young guys out there. They might let, insert 28, 29 Melvin Gordon year-old, running back who can catch, who can run up the middle, who can do kind of what we need. And, they might come here for a couple $1 million. Like, think Shaq Barrett. He signed a 1-year, $4 million contract with the Bucs. Yeah. Like, he was just supposed to be a death piece, but he blew up. And this is what we're kind of, the Bucs are, like Pless said, are going to bring everyone back. as best as they possibly could if Shaq doesn't come back, for instance. They're going to patchwork that edge position.
Yeah.
But you're going to see the $4 million edge player here. You're going to see the $2 million running back here. You're going to see the $1.5–2 million receiver here. We kind of saw that last year with AB, Leonard Fournette. Like, this is just, that's how Jason Light operates. He missed on Deshaun Jackson. He missed on Chris Baker. This is what he knows, and what's working for him is to make these small additions to just fill roles.
Yeah. And I think he's continued to improve. I mean, being a new general manager, and plus I don't mean to steal your thunder here, but Jason Light drafts in a vacuum. I mean, remember Michael Johnson? He brought in Michael Johnson. And he was like, oh, that's a mistake. I fucked up there. Let me get somebody else in here. And he doesn't stick with these mistakes. He moves on from them. So, again, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. And I really believe that he should, Plus, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to chime in on the Shaq Barrett. Like, people forget, like, we brought him in for, like you said, 1 million or 1 year, $40 million deal. And we had Noah Spence at the time. Noah Spence was actually the starter and throughout that whole preseason, because they were trying to push him, to get to that next level. And Shaq Barrett was always flashing in practice. He was making plays in preseason games. And we remember, Noah Spence playing that whole fourth preseason game. And then, the news comes down. It's like, okay, you're out. Shaq Barrett's just way better player, way better fit for the scheme and everything. So, yeah, what a treasure that has been as far as that move. And yeah, I think Jason is definitely learned from his mistakes. I think he's understand to trust his people more and not try to do everything himself. I think that's the biggest thing. Learning how to, delegate, learning how to understand, what his scouts and coaches want from as far as players. So when you look back and you look from 2018, well, maybe even 2017, you look at 2017 draft and then you go all the way till now, really not much to complain about. And if it wasn't for freak injuries to Justin Evans and Kendall Beckwith, this defense could be even more insane. Like,
bro, I just knew when I saw Kendall Beckwith and I saw how he flashed, and I was like, this guy's going to be a freaking monster when they get him out here.
Well, what sucks is because he would have been a perfect fit in this scheme. Like, he's a perfect 3-4 linebacker. Like, it seemed like they were drafting for this defense. Like, it just felt like it, maybe they saw like this could happen, and he would have been so good, especially. Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, I think Vita was a big FU to Dirk Cutter, because Vita didn't fit anything of what Mike Smith and Dirk Cutter wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think secretly Jason talked to BA. He's like, okay, if this could potentially come down, all right, this is what I'm going to do for you. So, but I mean, yeah, Kendall would have been a stud next to Levante and Devin White. Oh my goodness. And like, you could rush Kendall off the edge. It would have been insane. And then Justin Evans.
You could have
he picked off Drew Brees and Tom Brady.
Right. Same year. So
and then got injured week 4, week 5.
I know it sucks, but getting back to the point of Jason Light, I mean, he has really learned how to really draft better, really understanding how the schemes work, I feel, and he's getting guys that really fit the system, but also very talented players, and not really, pigeonhole to said need. Last year you could say, okay, yeah, we needed a right tackle, but at the same time, you got the best tackle on the board, the best tackle in the draft, and Tristan Wirfs. So, and then your second round pick, you get Winfield, who was he's an absolute baller. So,
if the top 4 tackles were taken by the Bucs pick, do you think Antoine would have been the pick? I think he would have been.
Yeah.
In the first
15.
round?
Yeah.
Very
whatever it was.
Yeah, very, very possible. I think he was that good. He was definitely worth a first rounder for sure, in my opinion.
Most definitely.
So yeah, I mean,
I would have traded down and grabbed him at the back end.
If not, I could have seen maybe a Javon Kinlaw, but I don't know if they would have went that route.
True. Okay, I forgot Kinlaw would have then been there, but no, for sure. Yeah, I think Kinlaw and Winfield would have been an interesting process for Light. Which two great players.
It's just so crazy. I mean, this his first season. When you look at all the rookies that were drafted ahead of him, the offensive linemen that were drafted ahead of him, and what he did consistently. And I don't want to say, okay, he had a flash here. He was consistently playing like a veteran. And that's, again, that's props to Jason Light and, what he was able to identify, because, he could have been one of those guys who's like, okay, the first three were gone. I don't know if we want him. He's still left here. Let's go a different direction. But they realized that, we need that offensive lineman, and he panned out. He's more than panned out.
Do you remember that Peter King article that he was basically sitting in on the draft? And Jason Light, from every pick from 7 to 14, he called every one of them to try to move up. And then San Francisco was the one who finally caved, because they didn't want to drop where we assumed the Dolphins were, who wanted to move up to their spot because they thought they were going to miss out on Kinlaw. But the Jaguars, apparently there was like a deal in place, but the Jaguars GM just didn't get back to Light. So I think Wirfs was his guy all the way. And I think it was just by some miracle, he just fell for some reason.
Yeah, it was really surprising. It just started with the 4th overall pick with the Giants. I mean, taking Aaron Drew Thomas, like a lot of people were thinking he would be the guy available at the Bucs pick, but that kind of, I think that started the snowball effect. And then, obviously the other teams that drafted tackles, like, certain different traits, the Jets, I assume they would go big with Becton because, they like that kind of style of player. And then you look at, Jedrick Wills. He was probably, looking at the tape, they were saying, okay, he's probably the most pro ready. Even, us at Real Bucs Talk, we questioned Tristan Wirfs as far as like just his overall awareness, as far as, picking up stunts and stuff like that. And some of his footwork technique was a little bit, up and down. But again, pro coaching can do a lot of things for a player. And we definitely learned that over the years. We even questioned Kendall Beckwith when he came out. Same thing with Justin Evans. And we were
you don't remember the Kendall Beckwith apology tour.
yeah, I was on it. So but yeah, it just shows what coaching can do, and this is why they have the jobs that they have. I mean, they know who they're looking for. So
and not just coaching, but evaluation, because I'm not sure about you two, because I didn't know you guys really back then, but like, I mean, when I was thinking of the draft last year and offensive tackles, I was thinking the left side. I was thinking of, Donovan Smith's replacement. That's who I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking of who could be the best right tackle, even with Tom Brady, who could be the best right tackle for us to help us win now, which that best tackle to help us was Tristan Wirfs. But, the right tackle thing, he played only right tackle at Iowa. Andrew Thomas played left tackle. Jedrick Wills could play both sides. What's his face? Becton. Becton's just a monster, even though I think he should be a right tackle. But, he played left tackle at Louisville, so he's got the tape. Wirfs didn't have the tape, but they had the mindset of we just need to make this the best situation now. We have Tom Brady. We have, this one spot, Lamar Dotson isn't back. Let's just fill this spot with the best player who can fill that spot, as opposed to trying to think 5 years down the road, like how I was personally.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat, and Robert Horton was talking about the Cards taking Simmons at 8. Just imagine how happy Kyler Murray would be having a Tristan Wirfs, protecting him against Bosa and goodness, all these other guys that he's got to deal with throughout the season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's a pick that really didn't work out last year. I mean, he struggled, Simmons, they were trying to find positions for him, and and then you had Hassan Reddick, who really stepped up and became that player I guess they kind of envisioned Simmons was going to be. But
why would you take a pass rusher in college, move him to middle linebacker, to move him back to pass rusher, only for him to get 12 sacks to finally realize he's a pass rusher?
I know, crazy stuff. Right?
And that's where the valuation goes, because Bruce Arians was the coach who drafted Hassan Reddick, and they had the vision for him to move to middle linebacker. And I think BA probably learned from that experience too, that, hey, you probably shouldn't make a player do what they can't do, focus on what they do well, and just improve them any way you can.
But you got to consider, as Bucs fans, we've seen how horrible talent evaluation has been going back to right after the Bucs won the Super Bowl, and we've just seen that year after year after year. And I do realize that the Bucs didn't have draft picks right after the Super Bowl. I get that, But if you're a good general manager, you make the best of what you have. You're able to bring some level of talent onto your team. And just when I look at what Bruce Allen did, and then I look at what Mark Dominic did, and I can look at their body of work now. Because when you're in the moment and that's your general manager, you're like, oh, okay, we'll give him a pass and let's see what this guy can do. But now when you can kind of step back and look at their body of work, it didn't work out. And, this is where Jason Light kind of rises above everybody else, because we can look at what he's done up to the point of the Super Bowl. And you see that, yeah, he's made mistakes, but on top of that, he's turned around and brought in good people as well.
And I love that you brought up the good people, because I don't know what Jason Light does in the interview room, but whatever it is works. Like, think about it. The Bucs could have had Aaron Donald instead of Mike Evans. People would say, we would be better franchise. Do you think that Aaron Donald, even if he became a superstar, would have wanted to stay in Tampa?
No.
So you get a guy like Evans, who at the time I honestly thought Johnny Manziel, made Evans, but we learned that it was really Mike Evans who made Johnny Manziel. And these are the things Light, as a first-year GM, kind of figured out. And I'm sure Lovie Smith, for all of his faults, had something to do with that. But we're seeing all of these guys coming in, like Antoine. Like, granted, he's a legacy, but you see all these guys, even Keyshawn Vaughn. Now, yes, you could nitpick his play this year, but I've heard nothing but outstanding things about his character, his work ethic, his, manhood. Like, this is a guy that people respect and want to be around because they think he's a good person. And that's the people we're drafting. And I think at the end of the day, that's just as important as the talent, because we've seen a lot of talented players flame out in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I think it goes back to especially learning, especially that offseason when he brought in Deshaun Jackson, Chris Baker, et cetera. I think he learned that it's important you get guys that love football, period. Like, it's not about, talent. Talent has a lot to do with it, but you got to make sure that talent backs up by the guy loving football and wanting to be great. And I think that's where he's really taken the next step up. A lot of these guys that are on the team, they want to be the very best at their position. And I think he had that with, Jameis Winston. I think Jameis loves football. Obviously, he loves the game. He wants to be great. Unfortunately, it just didn't work. And that happens, that's going to happen, but give him the credit that he decided, okay, we need to make a change. It's time. Yeah. Tom Brady became available. It's really easy to say, okay, yeah, we're going to go get Tom Brady, but to actually execute that and do it, it gives a lot of props to him, and not only him, but Bruce Arians as well. But when you look back at, evaluating the GMs of the past versus Jason Light, I'll just go to say it. He is a football guy. Jason Light is a football dude. He played offensive line. He knows the game. And I think that's what makes him different from these other guys that we had in the past. He's a film junkie. Like, he studies film. He a lot of these GMs that we had, Bruce Allen's, he was just a puppet for John Gruden. Mark Dominic, he didn't really study.
He was an intern at the Bucs and respect him. He rose to the top, but he was not a player. He was not a personnel guy. He was not really a scout.
His background was he was a swimmer.
Exactly.
Yeah, the greatest thing Mark Dominic did was bring in Mike Greenberg, and I'll give him credit for that. And that's really what kept him around, because the way they were able to do salary cap and contracts was very revolutionary. We haven't seen it before, and now most of the teams, they do it our way. So it's pretty crazy to see that. But I respected Dominic for what he was trying to do. I liked the plan that he tried to start off with. Obviously, you're rebuilding a team that needed more youth. You made a lot of tough cuts, drafted Josh Freeman. And then the next year, I liked the plan. He drafted heavy on the defensive line, but the problem was the defensive line players that he picked just didn't work out. It was, Brian Price and Gerald McCoy. Brian Price gets hurt. And then you have Adrian Claiborne, Daquan Bowers. Bowers didn't love football, it turned out, and he just couldn't stay healthy. And then, Claiborne was a solid player, but again, not a.
He got hurt.
Yeah. And
wasn't it like he was hurt the majority of the time he was in Tampa?
Well, he also had a like an injury thing to like one of his, like he was born with like a
Shoulder.
deficiency in his shoulder,
Right.
where like he didn't have like range of motion that like other people normally would. And I mean, Lord, I mean, he's made a career for himself. Fantastic. No, I hate the guy, but Cam Jordan was taken right behind him.
Yep.
So
Yeah, there you go. I was just going to say that. I mean, could have had
Yeah.
Cam Jordan here.
And that's a great point by, Christopher. He gave us, Levante David. So 2012.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
never forget him for Barron over Kuechly, but Levante, I'll give him the pass for.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 2012, he did some really good things. Again, that was the year he kind of went for it. He made a lot of big moves. He got in, brought in Vincent Jackson, Carl Nix, Eric Wright. So those were some moves. Again, he traded for Darrell Rivas. So he was a guy that was aggressive, but again, it just wasn't planned out properly. It just didn't work out for him, as far as the moves go. Again, I understand and I appreciate what he was trying to do, but it just didn't work out. But Jason Light, man, he's come leaps and bounds from where he started. But again, where he started, the team was at the bottom of the bottom. I mean, it's so. I mean,
So
he's built
I wanna ask you
championship
guys,
roster now.
Plus, I'm going to start with you. I want to ask you: can this past offseason be duplicated this year?
In a sense, I think it can. Again, I don't think we're going to bring many outside guys, but I think we're going to bring back who we need to. So I would say yes. Yeah. And I think we're going to draft very well, as always. I think we're going to find ways to get more players, find a way to get more picks, and really increase the depth of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Willie Graham is saying that JPP was the best free agent for Light.
Trade.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was because that was
Third round.
Yeah.
I agree, though. Best trade.
That was the best third round pick that the Bucs have had for a long time. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, we can argue that one, but I'm just saying. I mean, you knew what you were getting when he came in, and he's done nothing to disappoint.
Yeah, for free agent, definitely Brady. Love Shaq, but gotta get the edge Brady there.
Yeah, there you go.
Does this team remind you all of the 2001 and 2003, 2004 Patriots teams? I think you got a killer defense. You keep a lot of them together. Granted, the Bucs threw off that little dynasty they had there, but the Patriots went 2003, 2004 back to back. They're the last team to do it. They, kept all those players, and then what they did was they just draft defense, and then just brought in free agent offensive players that could just fill a role. And I think that's that. And Light was on that staff.
Yeah.
So I think that's the blueprint going forward: is find offensive role players and just throw players at the defense.
I would agree with that. I think you have what you need offensively, as far as you got guys that know the scheme, so you're going to be better as far as execution on that side. I think definitely add more pieces to your defense. That's where you have to remain strong, because we saw the defense, they played lights out, and if you can keep that together, offense is
healthy.
Yeah,
Think about this, guys. You lost Vita Vea early in the season, and this defense still remained in games. They were able to help this team win games.
Playing a different scheme too. They were playing a lot of zone, and a lot of people. And we're not good at zone, but they knew when to turn it on. But I think they would have performed a lot better in a vacuum if you told them those 8 weeks or 10 weeks that Vita wasn't there to play some man. And I think they would have stepped up to the plate and played a lot better than what they even showed during that stretch there.
Yeah. Hey,
I'll add to that quickly. If Vita's in there, they definitely play more man defense, because Vita allows them to be that aggressive because he's pushing the pocket. And like Ken said, they had to make adjustments because really the pass rush went down once Vita was out, and they had to be more creative as far as how they attack quarterbacks. So most definitely Vita he's the defense.
Oh, absolutely. They were able to stop the run, but it wasn't on the level of what you saw from Vita Vea in the playoffs, where playoff Vita, as we'll call him.
Playoff Vita. No, I love that, because they don't have to bring the extra bodies. Todd Bowles, we know, is just going to stop the run at all costs. So he'll bring the safety down. He'll bring Devin White. He'll do whatever he can to stop the run. So if Vita's there, you don't need it.
Yeah, there you go. So Jerome June, he's asking, will the Bucs trade OJ Howard?
Will they? Probably not. Would I? Yeah.
You kind of go back and forth with this because this guy is a talent. When he's on the field, and you saw what him and Tom Brady they had cooking early on before the injury,
even before Gronk.
Yeah, and this was before Gronk.
It was Howard.
And now you're like, well, can we keep him healthy throughout the season? And I know that has to be a factor in all this. Is that enough reason to get rid of a tight end that's as talented and physically gifted as a OJ Howard is?
Only if the price is right for me.
Yeah,
I mean, because he's too talented to just give away for a 5th round pick to save a couple mil in salary, because his contract's fully guaranteed against his injury. So once he's cleared physically by the medical staff, he's going to get paid, whether that be by the Bucs or someone else. So I say if he's healthy, I mean, he's a great asset to have for this offense. Then I think you have to cut Braid at that point. And I love Braid, or ask him, you're making like $2 million this year. Like, take that or leave it. Like, or we're going to cut you. And I love Braid, but you can't have 3 tight ends making over $6 million.
Because I think that Braid and Brady developed quite a connection together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good problem to have.
It really is. I mean, the tight end room is very good, especially with Gronk most likely coming back. You have those 3, and then you also have younger guys and Tanner Hudson, who I think can do some things that Cameron Brate offers, and then you have a Cody McElroy still who has size and some ability too that they would like to tap into. But as far as OJ Howard, I think they bring him back for this year, see what he can do, and then go from there. His value as far as a trade would probably be very low, especially coming off an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
And unless you're getting a 2nd round pick back for him or something of that nature, I wouldn't trade him. So got to see what he can do. And hopefully this is the year where he puts it all together, plays 16 games, and has a heck of a season with Tom Brady, as it seemed like he was going to do last year. So
yeah.
I think
Jake Arians loves him. Jake Arians, if you ever listen to a podcast of his, like, he just talks about OJ Howard like so much, which means it's probably a reflection of his father. Like, we can all read into that. Like, OJ is a very talented guy, but I'm with Pless. Unless it's a late 2, early 3, I don't see why. I mean, we can just easily cut Braid or restructure him. We know Auclair is probably not going to be back unless it's anything on a min deal, but you can find Auclairs anywhere.
I forgot about him. Yeah.
But he's a free agent. He had the exclusive rights, I think, or restricted last year. He made like $2 million, which I thought was kind of ridiculous given our tight end situation. But they ain't paying $2 million for a 4th stringer this year. That much I know.
Yeah.
Tanner Hudson, break out.
Yeah. And the thing is, I love the connection that Brate had with Brady in the playoffs, and they really worked well together. And I wish that, if he could have stayed healthy, that, Brate and Brady would have kind of had that connection throughout the year. But again, it is what it is. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do next.
If they just run play action, I honestly don't even think personnel really even matters other than Godwin for his blocking. I mean, heck, man, like what they did to the Chiefs in terms of play action and game planning, I don't know if there's a defense that can really stop that, because even with Brate, and insert OJ instead of Brate in the Super Bowl, like, what are you going to do if OJ and Gronk are just destroying defensive linemen and then sneaking out on routes? Like, you don't need 5 receivers. I just think Godwin to me is the most valuable one because he's the best one that can work with Brady, and Mike Evans might be the most talented. But I just think if Jameis is your quarterback, Mike Evans is your guy. If Tom Brady's your quarterback, I think Godwin's your guy. Yeah. So, but if Godwin were to leave, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is probably the only guy I would even consider replacing him with. But even then, if you're paying Juju 15, you might as well just play Godwin 18, 19.
Yeah, exactly. Because I really do believe that Godwin has a higher ceiling. Just when Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh, Juju never got to that level that you saw from Antonio Brown. So as much as
defense, Ben was poopy though.
Yeah, bathroom Ben was bad. Yeah, I totally agree. So I guess the next question then, when we're looking at all these players, if you can't keep somebody, who do you let walk?
Gun to my head.
Because this is something
I want them all.
we have to talk. This is the pink elephant in the room. We have to talk about this. I mean, who do you let walk?
Sue. And I know that's bold because I just need Shaq, Levante, and Godwin back. Sue, to me, I think he's borderline invaluable to what he offers to the defense. But you can find big bodies that can push people. Maybe Vita plays a little bit more 3. Like there's ways around Sue. I don't think you're going to insert a rookie or a broken down veteran to replace Shaq. And you're also still going to have to pay that veteran a decent amount in free agency.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like if you replace Shaq with Yannick Ngakoue, what you're paying for is 2 years of younger age and, not as much production, but equal amount of hype. So, I mean, I think Godwin has to stay. Shaq has to stay. Levante has to stay.
Yeah, and technique wise, I mean, I just haven't seen anybody like Shaq that you get from free agency.
That's everything. He even plays the run decent. Like he wins with power, he wins with speed, he wins with inside moves, leverage. I've seen him take back 360-pound linemen with one arm. I mean, like he plays everything so well, and it's crazy that he was an undrafted player who learned from Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. Like this guy learns stuff, and he was able to train. And he doesn't even have that much tread on the tires. He's got the 216, and the thing about Shaq is, and what I love about Sue too, is they play every game.
Yeah,
like they're there.
I mean, they're not
availability is availability.
Yeah.
Man, I was prepared to go in a completely different direction. I was going to say you let go Shaq, but those are really good points.
Well, financially, he's the best. I mean, like you can replace that money with a lot of players, and I think that's probably where you're going to go.
Well, actually, I was going to say Sue. To me, I just feel like he is a higher impact for this defense. And when you look at replacement value and you look at who can you go out and get to replace him, I just don't like the quality of talent that is available to replace Ndamukong Suh and what he means for this defense. A lot of people forget what he means in the locker room, what he means for Vita Vea. I just feel like he's playing at a very high level still, and I think he was really good last year. I thought he had his best season as of late. And when I talk about
he played better than he did again with the Rams. When he was with the Rams, I thought he played better as a Buccaneer than he did with the Rams.
I would agree.
Playing next to Aaron Donald, but I thought that Sue was way more dominant and way more effective here in Tampa. And I don't know if it's because of Todd Bowles and what he's dialing up or what, but I would say Sue is a better fit in Tampa.
Well, I think with Shaq, it's the Shaq effect. I think his best games come with Vita healthy. I think Sue's best games come with Vita healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go back to my point. This defense is all about in the middle. That's where it starts. When you have two guys that can take up 4 bodies on the offensive line, and you have your edges consistently one-on-one matchups, and you're getting a lot of opportunities to get set pressures or sacks. I think that's where that value of Shaq Barrett goes up. Not saying Shaq isn't a very, very good player. Like he is all well-rounded. Like you said, Ken, he can do everything, and he does it very well. And he's 29 years old. He's going into this is it for him as far as big contracts. So of course he wants to make money, and rightfully so. He deserves it. But I go back to value. Do you really want to pay him? Is he worth the $20 million per year? Is he a of that echelon of Khalil Mack or, Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa? Is he that kind of quality kind of player to get paid said money? I don't know. But, I think they're going to bring him back. I think they're going to bring him back in some ways. I think they're going to find it. But if I had to let someone go, it would probably be Shaq Barrett just because of the cost. And I think you can find ways to use your money a little bit more valuable and find guys that can do similar things.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Again, I'm probably wrong.
This is like picking your favorite child. Like,
yeah,
exactly.
Like,
yeah,
you can't let one of them go.
right.
Like-
right. Yeah.
Yeah. But, when we look back over the past decade and look at that defensive line and you look at what you have now, it's so hard to say, okay, I can let any of these guys go, because we've seen what Gerald McCoy did. We've seen what Daquan Bowers, we've seen what Brian Price has done. We've seen what Chris Baker's done. We've seen what Johnson from the Bengals. I mean, we could go on and on and on down the list. And for the Bucs to have a quality defensive line like what we've seen, it's just hard to pinpoint any one player and say, oh, we could let him go. And there's just so much reservation. When you think about these players, there's so much reservation. You're like, no, I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. I am a Shaq Barrett. I love Shaq Barrett. I've loved Shaq Barrett since they announced that they were bringing him to Tampa. I've just loved the move. I loved I've watched him in preseason games in Denver and said, this guy needs the opportunity to start. But when you're sitting behind future Hall of Famers and you're not able to really get out and show what you can do because those guys are durable and you don't run into injuries. I mean, Shaq has done more so to come in and make the most of his opportunities here. And, like you, I see what you're saying with the money, where if the money is utilized correctly, you could bring in players and, take care of a lot of other positions.
I'm just saying, I'm a big believer of this scheme. I think the scheme works, and I think it produces opportunities for guys like Shaq Barrett to make plays like he's done. So I think the sacks will come because of said scheme. And if you have pieces like Vita Vea, who opens up more opportunities for said players, I think it really benefits, who's on the edge. That's my only thing. But again, I'll say this: I think everyone's coming back. I think they're going to find a way to bring them all back because they can do it, and they'll find ways to structure the contracts in the way that favor them, team wise.
Yeah. And this is where Jason Light's going to make money.
Oh no, go back to the T. Smitty one where he's like, what if Levante takes that payday? Because I don't know. I'm sure you all saw this whole Levante, to Cleveland thing. Like, you think Levante's going to leave for Cleveland?
No, he's not going anywhere, man. he loves it here. He got his payday. He got $50 million over the last.
Yeah, well, how much more do you need, man? You don't need to be Patrick Mahomes.
You're good,
like, Patrick Mahomes took it and bought part of the Royals. Like, what are you going to do with that much money? Like, get you some rings, get you in the Hall of Fame, man.
There you go.
In the Hall. If you have 3 Super Bowls and Bobby Wagner's got 1, who do you think they're gonna give the nudges to?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. My guy is still not. Simeon Rice is still not in. So I mean, I don't know.
It's like I told you guys last week. I mean, he was the best pass rusher I've seen live, and I've seen a lot of ever. And
better than Shaq. I'm sorry, I love Shaq, but
like
Simeon Rice.
I've seen a lot of great pass rushers, but what Simeon Rice could do against offensive linemen, I mean, he put him on skates. He, pushed him over. It didn't matter. Like, dude knew how to win consistently, and he was just so fun to watch. You just knew that he was going to get a big play, force fumble, whatever. It was going to happen. And I just love the dude. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Great personality, great person.
And offenses were different back then too. Like, think of just the John Gruden West Coast offense. Quarterbacks were getting the ball out of their hands quickly. Running backs were getting 30 plus carries a game back then.
Yeah.
Could you even imagine that if a team did that in today's society, not named Derrick Henry? Like, and this guy was still producing 10, 15 sacks a year. That's why like we talk about Warren Sapp just being like, probably the greatest defensive tackle of all time, because putting up those kinds of sack numbers, 19 sacks as a D tackle, like, Aaron Donald hasn't even done that yet.
Yeah.
Like, And that's
Well, he
just
got
crazy.
20. He
Oh, he
20.
already got 20 that 1 year. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's elite company. But Aaron
Right.
Donald, if you look at snap rush counts versus what
Yeah.
Warren Sapp had to do, and you look at even Shaq versus Simeon, like, it's a completely different ballgame.
That's what's fun. I mean, you put both of those guys in today's game, they probably get easily 20 sacks.
Bye, Michael.
Yeah. Yeah. They easily break the record for sure.
there you go. Well, dude, I cannot believe we've been on here an hour already. So what I was going to do is going to get your final thoughts and we'll roll up out of here. Plus, are you busy next week? I'd like to get you back on here one more time. I know
Man, we'll have to make it. I'll make it work. Yeah, we'll make it work.
All right.
We'll check with your assistant. Check your schedule. Make sure you can fit us in. Big time over there.
Yeah.
Well, let me get your final thoughts, man.
This was awesome. I'm always happy to talk football with you guys, especially Bucs football. I really am excited for this offseason. Like I said, like you guys said, I feel like this team's going to stay together. I think they're on a really good place right now as far as just roster overall. They're in good hands. They have smart people running the ship. So very excited to see what comes of it. How the roster is going to look once we get closer to the season starting. So a lot of good times ahead. But at Real Bucs Talk, which is my podcast that I run with my good friend Mark Ramirez. We're actually going to have some content coming out later, hopefully tomorrow and also Friday. We're going to be breaking down some more prospects. So we're really grinding the tape on draft and try to get as many guys covered as we can. So look for, I don't know, should I do a name drop? No, I'll keep it surprise. I'll keep it.
No. Yeah, make them subscribe and
yeah.
and all that. So they can just pop up.
And like and subscribe if you can.
Please,
just take a second to
appreciate
go out to Real Bucs Talk and like and subscribe. Great content. I've got my little list here that I think I'm at like 7 players right now, but I've got a ways to go to catch up with you guys and just keep working on it.
Yeah.
KB, let me get your final thoughts, bro.
Yeah, man. Other than following Real Bucs Talk, where you're going to find a lot of, solid breakdowns of both what the Bucs do scheme wise. You can look at their old videos from during the season. I mean, you learn so much if you're especially new to watching film and learning about football in general. That's the kind of stuff that you need to watch because there's not that kind of content out there.
No.
My final thoughts: don't play the Madden game, fans. You all want to talk about these big free agents, JJ Watt, like all of these guys that Patrick Peterson that can, JJ Watt signed, but players you can become available. That's not the Bucs offseason this year. So I'm sorry, I'm just going to burst your bubbles now. Where the Bucs are going to focus on bringing as many people as they possibly can back. Like Pless said earlier, it's not the splash game. It's the right way. This is the game the Bucs are going to play. Just accept it. I wouldn't even bother just doing a mock draft until after free agency because that's the tell of the tape. We don't know what's going to happen until we figure out who's not coming back, who's back, and all that kind of stuff. So stick with us. Follow Real Bucs Talk. Follow BucWhatYaHeard. We're going to be around. We're going to help, dissect everything that occurs. And free agency is right around the corner, guys. So, just keep working hard, and we're going to be here for you when you take the edge off.
There we go. Hey, I just encourage people to enjoy right now. We're Super Bowl champions. We're Super Bowl champions. Enjoy this as much as you can. And, when it gets right around to free agency, just remember these 4 words: trust in the process. And that's what it all comes down to. Jason Light didn't let you down last year. He surprised a lot of people. And I believe that he's going to do more of the same this year. When you have all these collective minds, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, Jason Light, Bruce Arians, and Tom Brady. Let's not forget about Tom Brady and his input put into this team going into this season here because he's looking for number 8. So all I can tell you is just trust in the process. Enjoy the ride. I'm enjoying the ride personally. It's so much better than what we've been experiencing over the past decade. So I'm good with it all. But anyway, that's pretty much it for us. And we're going to go ahead and roll up out of here. Again, I'm Gene Thomas and Michael Pless and my man KB. We're out of here. Come and check us out next Wednesday. We're going to try to drag this guy back on here again. And we're going to talk a little bit more as we get closer to the free agency market, and we're going to see what everything happens. So just check us out. Shout out to Bucs Report. Appreciate you guys, and we're out of here.
Don't forget about Ryan Suckup.
Oh, yeah. We can't forget about Ryan Suckup.
Jason Light, don't forget him.
Captain of the ship, yeah. Cannons like a lotus, so it's time to